everybody should have got time to watch that. Rob and Jenna behind the curtain have said maybe the best way to go here, instead of just opening it wide open, is, if folks have a question, maybe raise their hand and then we can unmute them and direct your question to whoever you'd like to address that to. Obviously, as I said, several of our speakers today were in the film, but I think that's probably the fair and best way to go. And we'll spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes talking about this, plus anything else that came up today. And then we'll move into the virtual social at about quarter till the hour. And folks are encouraged to take a stretch break and get an adult beverage, and we'll explain this virtual social in about 20 minutes. So anyhow, hope you enjoyed the film. What we envision is we'd like to get this out more widely to as many outlets as we can. Once it gets past these film festivals and the restrictions or requirements that we've agreed to for those, we'd like to get this out and about. We think it tells both sides of a very complex question. It may seem easy and straightforward to many of us, but we've had good response when we showed this to focus groups and folks who sort of know about the issue but don't really. And so anyhow, at this point, I'd say if anybody's got a comment or a question, raise your hand and we'll get you unmuted.
Okay, Kevin. So it looks like we've got Daryl Lutz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Daryl, I'll invite you to unmute your mic and ask your question or provide your comment.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, so Daryl Lutz in Wyoming. And Kevin, if you don't mind, it's not a question about the film, which is an outstanding film, but if Frances is still with us, I guess, do you mind if I ask her a question about her talk?
Nope, let's get this going.
Yeah, so I just am really curious with your culling program and the parent success with clearing disease, especially with the Hell's Canyon herd and that in South Dakota. How long, what did you do to test? How long did it take you to get test results back? Did you have to hold those sheep for hours or days?
Well, the first time when we started, we just tested them and let them go, and then recaptured them if they were positive. So we started out with a Soton herd and Custer, both places that are pretty accessible. And if you put the time in, you can, catch the sheep more easily than some other places. I mean, not saying it's easy, but so, and then when we got we did, and then when we expanded it, we were using all helicopter capture, and then it's, not, you can't just go and catch them again. So that's when the BioMe became available, that field side PCR. And we just put them in a trailer, or if we weren't by a road, we just had like a sheep box, sheep crate. And we gave them a little bit of, the vet gave them some tranquilizer, and it probably took about an hour to get a result back on that test.
Okay, good. That's very encouraging. Thank you, Frances.
Hey, Daryl.
Sure. Daryl, I have a question for you, Daryl.
Yes.
Do you think you might want to do something like this? We're kind of trying to pressure BioMe. They're really kind of COVIDed up. We're not the highest priority. And we're trying to pressure them, or just show them that there's really demand for this technology. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess if
that's okay, Frances. I mean, yeah. I am interested in it. Whether or not we would implement it, I don't know. But given with our Whiskey Mountain herd, I don't know that we have a lot of choices, and certainly we're interested in seeing what Rachel and Brittany and Kevin Monteith's research tells us before we probably do anything. But it certainly seems to be perhaps an alternative, given our toolbox doesn't have a lot of other tools in it. So yes, but not sure when, I guess might be the
Okay.
best answer.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question, and I think Jeremy Ayotte is on somewhere, and Helen, you guys had experience with the biomeme unit on the Fraser project. Maybe can you share just a couple tidbits of what you learned in deploying that the last couple winters? I think maybe raise your hand. That way Rob knows who to unmute.
Jeremy, I did find you. You should have the ability to unmute yourself if you're there.
He's still showing as unmuted. So on. Helen?
He may be
Jeremy?
getting his beverage.
I'm about ready to.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, that's right, bud.
So Helen, are you still with us? Oh, well, maybe they'll both
Well,
come back in.
Kevin, just, you might be aware of this, but just on that topic, maybe Kevin or Jeremy will show up, but we do have a master's project with South Dakota State, a student there who's trying to kind of optimize biomeme for bighorn sheep and for MOV, I guess.
Yeah, that's really good. I don't know. It just seems to me like I feel like our backs are kind of up against the wall, and that may be one of the more, I don't know if appealing is the right word, because gosh, what a terrible thing to have to do. But man,
Yeah.
if we could help those sheep clear it, maybe we could get them beyond that hump and recover.
Yeah. I'm really interested in that. So you have a group of sheep that's having pretty good lamb survival in the winds?
Oh yeah, Francis, this is the Whiskey Mountain herd. It used to be the biggest bighorn sheep herd in the world, I guess, where most of the sheep that were transplanted, to Nevada and within Wyoming, and I think even Idaho back,
Yeah, we got
in
some.
the day came from. And that herd has declined from around 2,000 sheep in the early 90s to around 500 today. And it is clearly a lamb survival issue, and the majority of lambs, based on those that have been collared the past 2 years with a Kevin Monteith study, have died from pneumonia.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a text message from Jeremy. He's lacking a microphone, so I guess he can't respond. But Helen, if you're there, you guys deployed the biomeme on the Fraser project. Any insights that you learned there? If not, we can keep going. Other questions or comments about the Wild and Wolf film, or frankly, any of the other presentations today?
Yeah, we just had Joseph put his hand up, so I have enabled you to speak there, Joseph. So if you want to try unmuting.
Joseph might be having some problems, but Mike, it looks like you're also clamoring. Mike Cox, please go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. We actually did have Caitlin Freerick, the graduate student, come up this summer with the biome unit to that interstate herd that was part of the film on the Leppy Hills to help us assess the movie status, and it worked great. I'm not sure if the film gave us hope to do something, but we are doing a test and removal in the Leppy Hills herd, which was part of the footage of, unfortunately, the sick and dying lambs. And I just want to say thank you to the Wild Sheep Foundation for having the vision to produce such a great film. It's a great conversation starter in many circles to help all of us appreciate what's happening.
Yeah, thank you. And in turn, we would ask, once we get a green light and we get through the film festival hurdles, we'd like to try and push this out as much as we can. So we think it tells both sides of a story. I see Joe Want is off mute. Whoops, on and off. Go ahead, Joe. Joe Want, you there? Okay, who else?
Looks like we have Karen with her hand raised. Go ahead, Karen.
Hey, Kevin, this is Karen from the National Bighorn Sheep Center. How are you?
Good. Thanks
It's
for
been a
joining.
great, great film and lots of great information today. So it sounds like we can't share the Wild and Wool film at this point.
Not
Is
at
that
this,
correct?
not at this point. Like I said, we put it up on our YouTube channel on the 28th. It'll be taken down on the 5th, and we still have to clear some film festivals per the agreements that Phil Baraboo and his folks struck with the entry requirements. So not yet. As soon as it's
Okay.
good to go, we'll let everybody know.
All right. Sounds good. We'd be glad to share it on our social media and our website as well.
Thanks. Joe Want, you're off mute. Go ahead. Nope. Who else?
Looks like Francis, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Good discussion today. Helen and Jeremy can talk more to this, but we certainly gained some insight from using the biomeme on the Fraser River project. Off the bat, certainly there's always challenges using biomemes or animal PCR sensitivity tests in the field compared to a lab, especially when you're capturing wildlife and there's risk of contaminants that so we're taking 3 swabs and trying our best to use a 3rd swab that's less dirty to run it through the PCR analysis. It worked quite well. The other caveat is we weren't aware of temperature as well. It was quite cool on the Fraser River, so in future we'd have a warming hut to utilize the machines in, because that may have affected the end results. The other interesting scenario that happened is there was a couple of instances where the biomeme was saying in animals positive, but then you run the swab test separately down in Abbotsford and it was coming back negative. That didn't happen frequently, but I think more we're thinking at the population level, the end result will be positive, but there's still going to be maybe some minor differences between where you get the PCR tests run. And Kaylee could probably, I think she noted she could probably talk to, if she's still on as well, she could probably talk to that more succinctly than I can. But overall, you got to think about it at the population level, and we'll be working with the wildlife health team to develop a bit of a pocket user guidebook as well to help us out as we continue on these tests and remove on the Fraser as we treat different respective bands as we continue. We did recently try and do an aerial survey. Results are still pending. The wind kind of shut us down, but we can certainly provide more formal aerial survey results in the next few weeks. On the ground counts in the treatment area, they did look positive. There was certainly higher lamb ratios during the summer to observe. So We're just kind of formalizing more of the information that we can certainly share with everybody. But yeah, definitely quite a few lessons learned on the Fraser. So it'd be interesting with the community of practice to hear if other folks are running the biomeme and then also taking separate, other swabs down to get PCR ran as well to compare the results.
Yeah, Fran, thanks for that. I should know, but Division of Labor, I haven't studied the agenda that closely. Is anybody going to present on the Fraser project other than Helen's this morning?
Not that I'm aware. Sorry.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know about health. Sorry, I can't answer that one.
Okay, it looks like Peregrine Wolf has her hand up. Please go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Sure can.
I just wanted to congratulate Kevin and the hosts, Alberta hosts, on a great first day. I think it was the talks were excellent, very nicely done, and this is the second time I've seen the movie, and really looking forward to being able to have it out and be able to run it at some meetings where I know that there will both be wildlife people and a domestic sheep contingent, because I think it's really well done. So just thanks all for a great day.
Thanks, Perry. And just a question back to you, once you separated from NDOW and now you're working for the Wildlife Disease Association, you're also the chair of our Wild Sheep Foundation board. I'm just curious, can you share any of your thoughts sort of on one side of the fence now that you've jumped over to the other side of the fence and not working for an agency, but working for an NGO and an independent like the Disease Association? Do you have any different messaging or thoughts that maybe you could or couldn't say when you were wearing an NDOW shirt and hat?
Oh gosh, I don't know what I can think of off the top of my head. I just, I think it's really nice to hear stories where there's been successful outreach across the aisle to producers. And, I think that to me, that's something, that whole sort of advocacy piece, without advocacy becoming kind of a dirty word, is really important for all of us. And certainly in my role at WDA, I see a need for it in all of our members across the world. But I think that we need a little bit more training in that as wildlife biologists and wildlife veterinarians in our jobs, is learning how to communicate in uncomfortable situations and learn to do it better. I don't, there's very few people that are naturally good at it. I think it would be very beneficial if we all knew how to do it a little bit better. And, just being able to establish relationships and know how to speak and confront difficult subjects, I think would be a really beneficial thing. And we spend a lot of time training on disease and samples and cutting up animals and collecting this and that, but we never really spend a lot of time teaching people how to just be better in uncomfortable situations. So that's my plug.
Yeah, and I find it interesting when Ann Hubbs said she would try to reach out to some of her folks to help us put this on. Rob and Jenna, they work for, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's basically their information and engagement section. So
right, yes.
Yep. Alberta, at least AEP, is doing a good job of recognizing sort of that social science end of things. So kudos to Alberta for having talented folks like that engaging with the public. Other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, maybe something Wild Sheep Foundation could look at providing some opportunities for that, during the convention week when there's a lot of biologists and sheep people in town. Just, a workshop maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, we offered up our mediation team to both campaigns for the US election, but neither one of them returned that phone call. We'll see how working across the aisle goes tonight in the subsequent.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, Joe, go ahead.
I have a question regarding the removal of infected animals and creating disease-free herds. My question is, have they done that in the private sector as well, been able to duplicate that? Thank you.
Do you have anybody in mind you want to direct that question to, Joe, or is that just thrown out to the crowd?
Well, I think to the presenter who addressed the removal of diseased animals from one of those herds or several of those herds, and it resulted in a disease-free herd. My question is, have they tried that in the private sector and had the same results? Thank you.
I think, Francis, he may be referring to your presentation. Do you want to take a stab at that?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean by the private sector, Joe.
I mean, domestic sheep are raised around the world, and this Mycoplasma over pneumoniae is an issue with.
Fox, geez, people.
You're still live, Mike.
Yes. Farm flocks.
Oh, on farm flocks? Is that what, Joe, is that what you're asking? Is whether we've done a domestic sheep?
No, I'm asking if the removal of diseased animals from domestic sheep has come up with the same results, meaning a disease-free flock.
Right. Okay. Thanks for clarifying, both Mike and Joe. We are working on that. And so is Helen in BC. And both looking at, culling or removing animals that are positive. And then Helen is doing the antibiotic treatment that we aren't allowed to do in the US, but we do have a study on a different antibiotic going at the University of Idaho to see if that will work. So the main thing is that, and I think it will work in domestics. The thing we've done it, we've been working with folks in central Idaho and in Montana, actually, a producer in Montana. Don't ask me how I got involved with that, but anyway, the main thing is just, I think technically it will work. I think Perry has a good point that, you're dealing with people and there's social aspects to it too. So we're kind of working through that, and it's not the easiest thing for the producer to do. And so they kind of have to be set up for it, and they don't really see any benefit other than it being nice to do, which for some people is enough, but there could be some benefit to their lamb survival too. But right now it's been a lot of work trying to do this. I don't know if Holly Miyazaki is on the call, because she's been working more closely with the domestic sheep folks. But I guess the short answer is I think it would work in domestic sheep, at least the smaller flocks.
Holly's showing as a tile, so go ahead and unmute her if you would, Rob.
Can you hear me?
Sounds like you're in a well, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I guess just a direct answer to the question. We have been, as Francis said, working in central Idaho with some small flock owners. And we have been successful in clearing the moldy from some of these small flocks by culling positive individuals. But I will say these flocks didn't have a high prevalence rate to begin with. So we weren't culling large numbers. We haven't been working with really big flocks either. So I guess it's a limited sample size with some caveats there, small number of positives to start with, but we have been able to do it.
To me, looking, and I've heard Tom Besser present so many times. And, I've heard Tom say, if you have a range band of 1,000 ewes, you might have as many as 50 or 60 different strain types of MOV versus, somebody's backyard hobby herd with, 12 animals or 20 animals. That's a world of difference in magnitude. So, I'm not sure sort of these big range bands, how you would deal with that. Maybe have to focus on the small ones. So anyway, how about one or two more questions or comments? And then I see Kirby Smith is on the participant list. So he's in deer camp somewhere, standing on a stump, holding his phone in the air. But we'll turn this over to Kirby here in a couple minutes to walk us through what he thinks or how he sees the next session go on, the virtual social and the music. But how about one or two more comments?
Kevin?
Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to let the group know, I know Dr. Besser probably has been visiting with Mark Judela at MSU, but in the College of Ag at MSU, Mark Judela and his group in immunology, which includes gene CRISPRs and immunobiologists and geneticists, have embarked on a NIFA startup project. They're just starting their second year to actually delve into respiratory pathogen work on domestic sheep. And they're hoping to turn it into a full-blown NIFA project, in another year or so. But they're really initiating some interesting work. And if Tom's been visiting with Mark, that may be an aspect that he could bring up with Dr. Judela as well, with his team, because it's a pretty high-powered team and they're focused on respiratory pathogens and domestic sheep. So, and they're well into their startup grant. Just a piece of information.
Thanks. I don't know if Tom is still on. I didn't look at the participant list.
Looks like we have Wayne here with his hand up.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I don't have any specific expertise in the way that y'all are working on this deal, but Analaska is a really tiny little place. But this got to be pretty confrontational in a pretty short time up here. And I think probably, I've been a human being for quite a while. And as a group, we're kind of passionate about what is important to us. And it's really, I think, important to generate an actual empathy for those people that are on the other side, if you can. What we found up here is that it wasn't just your domestic sheep or your goat. The idea was it was your freedom. And that's a level of passion that is pretty explosive sometimes. Thanks.
Okay, I see Tom Besser's tile. So Tom, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so Kurt asked about Mark Judela, and I have talked to Mark. In fact, we had a couple of conference calls with Mark's whole research group where we talked about their programs, and they're going a number of different directions. I find it really exciting to have a group with veterinary skills and powerhouses that Mark's group does working on this. I'm really confident that they're going to find out a bunch of new. One person that I've talked to a lot, and I'm not sure if she's exactly in Mark's group or not, is Diane Bimchok. I know they have developed an MOV-free band of sheep by taking lambs at birth and feeding them artificial colostrum separate from lambs, which work very well. They have done some experimental infection of sheep with OV pneumonia. That's worked well, and so they have a nice research program started there, and I hope it goes has legs for them.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, how about one last comment or question, and then I'll call on Kirby.
It's Beth here. I was just wondering if the agriculture industry in the Okanagan had any concerns about the bighorn sheep with Seroptes running around. Was there, I don't know if Helen is here or Adam.
Both their tiles are showing. Adam's.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Did any of the farmers in the Okanagan Valley have concerns with the Seroptes and the bighorn sheep?
We haven't heard any reports that I'm aware of farmers being overly concerned about Seroptes. the BC biologists, I know there are a couple of them that are in on the line as well, and so they can correct me because they probably have a better on the ground knowledge. I think there's less concern about that, both because there haven't been any reports of any symptomatic domestic sheep at all in Canada that I'm aware of, and it is a reportable disease in Canada, so I think we would hear about it. And also because it's not that hard to eradicate from a domestic population. We do have treatments that do work if you apply them multiple times. So we haven't had any major concerns that way that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so after a long day inside, we all wish we were standing outside over a bonfire having a adult beverage, but Kirby, if you have good coverage, I'd ask you to maybe take the podium and walk us through how you think tonight is going to unfold and what you've put together.